EastEnders station fried after dramatic return storyline. He's just never just sat in the lingerie. This is obviously about Mr. Ross Kemp. He's a bit fried after doing the EastEnders. It's hard work appearing on set for 2 weeks out of the schedule of everyone else and doing your scenes. It's very hard being Ross Kemp, isn't it? Very bloody hard being him. We can say bloody in the first minute. It must be very tough. Yeah, probably. It must be very tough for him. So yeah, you wanna give your thoughts, mate, before we get into it?
It's such a weird. Obviously, it's the whole thing where Ross Kemp returns, like, oh, it's great, Grant's back, he's back. And he's always expressed that he would only ever really come back for the big moments, because ever since he left in like 99?
99, yeah.
Ever since he left in 99, he just clearly went, I want to do something else. Because he did spend nearly a decade at EastEnders establishing himself as, at this point, one of the more iconic characters. Him and Phil are infinitely popular, and obviously Grant hasn't been watered down like Phil was when Grant decided to leave. And that in its own right made Phil probably a bit less interesting, because Phil did have to become more like Grant in its own right, because ultimately Grant's not coming back, so Phil is now Grant as well. So he kind of embodies both characters in its own way, because obviously Grant wanted to leave and Phil wanted to stay. It's it's always an impossible thing in terms of this. And it was always suggested he was only ever supposed to be coming back for the documentary. That was going to be what he was there to do, because, he did all the documentaries, all the travel stuff, all the big stoic documentaries. That's what Ross Kemp does at this point. So he came back to do a big documentary where it was basically Ross Kemp with the stars. And he didn't fit in whatsoever. He came back the episode before the 40th anniversary week, was kind of muted during the 40th anniversary week until the Phil stuff, and then he stayed for like a week after, where he made some peace with everyone, slept with Sharon, and then left. It was always a weird one, because they brought him back, but obviously the first couple episodes, they weren't about Phil. So they weren't about Phil, so he was then just existing as Phil would like slowly degrade and slowly get worse and worse. And it's such a funny. I mean, I think we can make it now. Ross Kemp's not returning till Phil dies. That's it. That's all he's coming back for. Maybe he'll come back for the 50th, but he's not coming back anytime soon. His heart's not in it. Even then, I don't really think until like the last episode, he didn't really make sense or fit back on the show either, is my problem. Like, he was there, but he wasn't great. Like, when you bring back Grant, you're supposed to be, these really big scenes with Sharon and Phil and I don't know. I don't even know. There's no one else. Like, who else really knows who Grant is at this point? Oh, he's gonna have scenes with Phil and Nigel and Sharon. It's gonna be great. And it's like, then you have the generational gap where it's like, and he's gonna have a one little tiny scene with Teddy Mitchell. Who the fuck's that? Who's that? Little small bald-headed boy, blue-eyed. What's he doing? Nobody knows who he is. So like, it would be like if you brought back Cindy, but you didn't bring in the Knights. It'll be like, oh yeah, and then Cindy's gonna have really good scenes with Kathy and Ian and Bobby. Like, what? Great. that sounds like ass, dude. That sounds ass. So I don't necessarily think that Ross Kemp he didn't really fit back in, and from everything they said, like the documentary was like, oh, we do the documentary, it'd be cool, and they went, yeah, but what if you actually did come back? And he went, all right, sure, and then he did about 5 episodes, which, let's be honest, he probably filmed it in about 2 to 3 days. So yeah, it's always kind of wild when it's like, I'm just so bloody tired. oh no, you actually had to do some acting for the first time in like 10 years. Oh, Nelly. So much like you were a professional actor for the bulk of your career.
I will say maybe his foot is just knackered from bloody kicking that garage door in, the motor store. And I know I'm not supposed to laugh because Phil is about to end his life, but it's just so funny because it's like, go on, Grant, you got this. And he's just like 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, come on now. 5. 26. Oh, let's go. It's one of my favourite like bits of the 40 is him just booting in the door, but he can't do it. But yeah, his heart's not in it. But I'm gonna read the article. You did see me setting it up on camera about 5 minutes ago, so yeah, just reading it now. Hold on. Yeah, EastEnders legend fried after dramatic return storyline. He's never just sat in the lingerie. Note this article discusses topics including suicide. So yeah, trigger warning. The star best known for playing the star is best known for his role as Grant Mitchell on the BBC Soap. She played from 1990 to 1999, so a solid 9 years. Since leaving EastEnders, Kemp has occasionally returned to Walford for key storylines, including Piggy Mitchell's death in 2016. Grant's most recent appearance on the show, so I'm checking in on his brother amid Phil's ongoing mental health issues. The tragic storyline developed across multiple weeks before the 40th anniversary episode, which saw Phil attempting to take his own life. Meanwhile, Grant found himself romantically entangled with former flame Sharon Watts, despite her relationship with his newly discovered cousin, Teddy. He was also faced with the shocking news of his friend Nigel Bates' dementia diagnosis. Speaking to the Radio Times, Kemp has discussed the various emotional scenes during his return, sharing that they had ultimately taken a toll on him. It was wonderful, but you come away from it slightly fried. He explained. Grant comes back, and within a minute he's fighting, he's crying, he's making love, and he's crying about it, then he's fighting again. He's never just sat in the lingerie. The first scene in the anniversary was me breaking into the arches and wrestling a Beretta 9mm off my brother. So it wasn't like going to the cafe and saying, "Can I have a bacon roll, please?" Despite the intense storyline, the actors shared his delight at reprising the fan favourite role for another short stint. I think a part of me is Grant, and part of Grant is me. It was great to put the leather jacket on again. Also a relief that I could still get into it, he joked. Yeah.
Yeah, and wear that leather jacket he did. Yeah, I don't think he wore anything else. Like, he was there for like a week and a half, and he didn't do anything. It's one of those. He clearly didn't really give a shit. I'll be honest. He clearly just went, yeah, well, that was fun. See ya. Not doing that again. See ya next time. Bye bye. It's kind of funny whenever they do these like interviews, but like, he wouldn't want to just sit in the cafe eating a bacon sandwich. That's not. He knows better than that. He's Grant Mitchell. He's got reputation. He's got an aura. You don't just bring back Grant Mitchell to have him just have a pint with the lads. Not who he is. He's not been there for 10 years. He's basically left all his family behind. Like, obviously, I know the whole point is him just being like, yeah, it is a bit much. It is definitely a lot to get through, but also, you don't bring back Grant. It's like Cindy. You don't bring Cindy back to not cheat on Ian. Come on now. It's what she does. And it's what Grant does. So, I think, let's be honest, he's not coming back anytime soon.
No.
I think that's the real revelation of this article. He's not coming back unless he has to. Maybe for the 50th for a little shock surprise. But fundamentally, there's going to have to be a really, really big storyline for him to actually return. It's not like Michelle Fowler, who at the end of the day probably will never return, or at least not Susan Tully, which is fine, you know. It's about time the community made peace with that. But Grant is also in that category where, I mean, that's what you do, right? You dine out on the success, and then when you're not as successful, you come back. That's just how it works. Just how it be. If we became wildly successful for one thing we did, and then we could just go do other shit and not have to come back and do the actual thing, absolutely.
What happened? What happened? Oh. Yeah, what was your point, mate? You were.
It was just the point of, would you actually want to see a Grant Mitchell full-time, like, extended stint?
And
Yeah,
it's
that's the interesting point.
uh, yeah. Sorry for the 5 seconds where it's just froze for
Internet issues.
yeah, internet issues. But as I was saying, I wouldn't mind Grant having like a long stint return. It won't happen in the near future, but it would be nice to see him like don the leather. Like, it's just, how do you go about it? Because you can't be like, this time Phil has really gotten in deep shit. The mafia and the mob and the entire Walford gangsters are after him. It's like, it doesn't really work, because Phil's not really the man that's like, alright Johnny, you see you mate, I know you've been shagging my wife, I'm gonna bloody batter you, I'm gonna batter the mafia, I'm gonna batter the mob, and I'm gonna batter the Walford gangs. And it's like, it's not Phil anymore. It's just, and plus, how does Grant fit into an environment that does not work for him anymore? Because the environment has changed. So he'd stick out like a sore thumb, because he's just a hard man. He's just like, alright, what are you gonna do, Phil? Or if not Phil, Grant, nothing. Just gonna awkwardly threaten my brother. Leave it at that. And that's it. It's just, he doesn't fit in. I could be completely wrong, and he could return and fit in like a puzzle. It just doesn't work in my eyes for him.
Yeah, like, it's one of those things where I think it would be cool to see. But in the same way, just like how Dirty Den would have been he's brought back for more. He had to have the right story, and have the story where he comes back to be with Sharon, Dennis, and Vicky, his family that he was robbed of having. That's interesting. And then you have his eventual death. And I think that's what it would be. That's what you would like to see it be if Grant were to return. Because if you do have Grant return, you have Mark Fowler Jr. there. You have Courtney there. You bring in Grant and his family, and then maybe he has a long-term illness and he eventually dies, or he gets involved with the wrong crowd, and unfortunately he maybe becomes a villain for a year and then is killed off. I don't know, it's just, you have to have something very important and very big to warrant Grant actually returning. Because, do you because you don't necessarily want to retread the same stuff, but maybe one last time you do have the blood feud with Phil and Grant, and then somehow Phil accidentally kills his brother in EastEnders, and it makes it a big whoa, Phil has finally actually done it. How is he going to cope with this? I don't know. You have to have something really, really big for Grant and Phil and Sharon, because they're all intertwined at this point. But it's also, you really would have to make something convincing.
I know I'm just copying a storyline that's already happening on the show. I'm currently looking directly into the character's side profile while I'm saying this. But I know Nigel has dementia. But I would love to see Grant having dementia in the storyline, having dementia as well. Because I feel like there's a bit more to tell with Grant having it, because you can be like, he can go back. I know Barrow Winster is dead, but you can bring back old Peggy. You bring back all the old Mitchells. You can have the flashbacks where you see what he's. So you have to do this in a way where it works and it doesn't cost too much. But from what I understand with experience of dementia, I don't have it, but from experience, you can do scenes where it's harder if you have Nigel, because Nigel has only been there for about 4 years. But you can have scenes where Like, say they're in the cafe. I know this is gonna look a bit weird, but like he's not in the cafe. He's like in the 80s cafe. He's in the 90s cafe with like Kathy and all
They
that.
did this with a video shop in its
Yeah.
own way, where
Or
they had the outside be like, here's the video shop, and it's actually the pharmacy.
yeah, or like he's in the Mitchell, like he's in Phil's house, and he's obviously sitting down for breakfast, but he's not seeing Phil. He is seeing 1985 Phil. Just stuff like that is what I do.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. But like, how do we necessarily think? Do we think basically would Grant die before or after Phil? You reckon?
He'd have to die.
It's just pure speculation. Like, there's no like angle for it, right? Like, it's just how old are the actors? Who's younger? I guess I'll have a look.
I think Grant's younger.
Steve McFadden's 66.
Ross Kemp's like 64.
Ross Kemp is oh jeez, come on, Jimmy faster, boy. He's 60. Okay, so Grant, he's younger. I always expected Grant to be older. I won't lie. He may be older in story, but
Steve McFadden. But to me, you kill Grant first, then Phil. It would be bittersweet to have Phil die with Grant, but the problem I see is if you kill Phil before Grant, is Ross Kemp going to do it? Like, it's going to be like Doc Brannon, where he's not going to come back for his own dying storyline. He's just going to be like, yeah, I'm leaving now, and I die off screen. Thank you, fuck you, bye, pay me. Like, it's the same with like Doc Brannon, where they were obviously obviously they didn't give her own death. She just died off screen, and it was very like anticlimactic. So like, at least if he dies on screen with Phil around him, it feels a bit better. And then like Phil can eventually he can probably die from broken heart syndrome, where like he's lost his brother and he really misses him. It's pure speculation, and I know it ruins the masculinity like vibe of Phil and Grant, but it honestly works like that because you can just have like
it would nice to be like a full circle type deal, right?
You can kind of have a mirror Peggy as well, where where obviously Grant then like since he's dead, Phil just starts seeing Grant, and like he starts seeing if the actor playing Nigel is not dead by the time Phil gets killed off, you can have Nigel and Grant like bantering with Phil, who's slowly losing his marbles, just something like that. I know it sounds shit, but it's what I would do because it would work. Because Phil already struggles with voices in his head, so it'd be nicer if he just like when he's old and senile.
When he's depressed.
When he's depressed, but like when he's old and senile, he's just like I think senile is a perfectly fine word.
Yeah.
So like he's just old and he's just seeing his brother and his best friend, and it's like
Yeah, it would be. Obviously, it's a really hard one to kind of predict, for example. But like, you have Grant be killed off, and you have it be a big like year-long event as such, and you bring in Mark Jr. and bring in Courtney, and if you do want to recast Michelle Fowler and you have them do that family and Sharon, Phil, etc., you bring back a bunch. I mean, it's what I always suggested when they would do Phil, where you bring back all the people from like Grant's past as well. Like, obviously you can't bring back Tiffany, but point being, you really need to sweeten the deal to really get him to put more than like a couple days. And I doubt he wouldn't have to come back full time, but at least just have him kind of. He comes in like once a month, records like scenes for the month, and then he goes from there. And he's still frequent, but he's not like he has more of like a Stevie Mitchell type role where he'll have like 5 episodes a month, and then boom, that's enough to like get him through the year. Only has to record for like 2 to 3 months, and then you have a big payoff at the end of it. But it's no real easy.
Or you do the thing that everyone wanted to do with Stacey, where it's like, Stacey, come down for your lunch. Yeah, I'll be down in a minute. Just like, Grant, are you okay up there? Yeah, he's grand. Look, he's grand. can't even get Ross Kemp to come back and like do that like voiceover. It's just it's just you in the studio doing yeah. But yeah,
it's I mean, it's no surprise he is probably quite fried after the 40th anniversary. It all seemed to be a bit of a whirlwind type deal, which is fair enough because it was a big deal and it was a big shock for pretty much everyone that he did actually agree to it. So, but also he's fundamentally EastEnders is not his future. And EastEnders probably won't be in the future that much for Ross Kemp, who's clearly happy doing other stuff. I mean, I'd much rather present shit and try to do like hard hitting, like kind of pseudo journalism about gangs and all that stuff like that. That's probably a lot more enriching than talking about and then being an EastEnders character, you know. And I don't blame him for taking that path, but it's what he's in and he seems to enjoy it. So fair enough. Enjoy the well-rested break, Mr. Kemp.
he gets to take on more. What was it, soldiers or pirates? What the fuck?
I don't know, man.
Where he just like, I know you have a gun, but it'll be fine. Just that scene that we always reference. You can just do more of that, where he's just like calming a gunman down. But yeah, we will obviously see in the next one. Do you want Grant to return? Do you not? Do you think he should be a permanent character one last time? Do you think he should just maybe be a permanent character, but he's slightly there, kind of on the Cindy schedule, where he's there some weeks and he's not there other weeks, that kind of thing? Just let us know down below what you honestly think, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye. Bye bye.